Good evening, friends. Being the good news is the topic of this evening. Everyone is looking for good news, especially in these times of sickness, the lockdown, loss of jobs, suffering, and death. Anne Frank, in her diary, has written, everyone has inside of him or her a piece of good news. The good news is that you don't know how great you can be, how much you can love, what you can accomplish, and what your potential is. Have you looked inside of you and discovered the good news you can be? To everyone, and especially to the abused, deprived, marginalized, oppressed. By being the good news, we participate in the mission of Jesus. Jesus' words, actions flowed from love and compassion for all in need. And what is compassion? Compassion is a feeling or emotion when a person is moved by the suffering or distress of another with a desire to relieve it. From compassion flows loving action. Let us first care and with compassion look out for the vulnerable in our own homes and SCCs, the seniors, very especially those suffering from dementia, Alzheimer's, the bedridden, the widows who are struggling in life, the battered women who are in pain, women-headed families, families destroyed by the violence of abusive addicts, families torn apart by disputes over property, hurt feelings, and unforgiveness. Having looked within, let us look outside, beyond our family members, to those in need of love and compassion. The domestic worker in your house, the watchman at your gate, the municipal worker who collects your garbage, the sewer cleaner who risks his life to clear the dirt in the drains. 95% of sewer cleaners are Dalits, and they die of illness early in life due to inhaling of poisonous gases when they are in closed spaces or slipping and falling in the sewer. As you step out of your house, you see little children forced to work on the roadside when they need to be studying and playing. An elderly roadside seller. A pregnant construction worker at a construction site. A lady with leprosy begs to stay alive in Bandra. Persons with leprosy will never get a job. They have no choice but to beg. The cobbler on the roadside, the shoe-shine boy. The blind man selling in the train, the coolie at the station. There are so many deprived people whom we meet in life. Some work for us in our homes, some work on the street, some are without work, some are unable to work and are struggling to survive. Poverty is the common factor in the lives of the people shown in the pictures in the earlier slides. Most of them have left behind their families to come to the city and earn a living. To be compassionate towards them, we need to understand the situation of our country that is leading to their deprivation. Let us reflect. Are people poor Or are they made poor by being deprived of what is rightfully theirs? Do people choose to be poor? Are people happy to stay poor? Do we reach out to help the woman or child who is abused in our own neighborhood? Who benefits from dividing people on the basis of caste, religion, food habits? Who benefits from creating fear through rumors? Who benefits from hate crimes against the Dalits, Christians, Muslims? During a research I conducted through my studies, I asked a woman pavement dweller why she lives on the footpath. She said to me, "You and I are both sitting on the pavement in a hut covered by tin sheets under the scorching heat of the sun. Both of us are sweating profusely. Are you happy to be sitting here in this heat?" I said no. She replied, "Neither am I. I have no choice." So how does one understand poverty? Poverty is the disempowerment, deprivation with regard to basic needs: food, health facilities, clean water, education, employment, clothing, shelter, sanitation. Rights, entitlements, customs, liberty and freedom. People in poverty are deprived and disempowered with regard to all of this. Poverty is also understood as hunger, poor access to clean water, sanitation, lack of shelter, illiteracy, and not having access to school, being sick and unable to see a doctor, fearing for the future, living one day at a time, lack of voice, discrimination, exclusion, feeling completely powerless, trapped by things beyond one's control. One of the main reasons for poverty would be the caste system, which remains entrenched in Indian society 75 years after India's independence. It deprives people of dignity, respect, and their rights. It deprives children of education in rural areas. Children belonging to the low caste are made to sit at the back of the class. There is name-calling and abuse. They are forced to do manual labor. When it comes to the midday meal, they have to sit in a separate place. 51% Dalit children drop out of elementary school according to UNICEF. As per the All India Survey on Higher Education, only 13.4% Dalit children have access to higher education. We have read in the past of Dr. Payal Tadvi, a second-year MD student who committed suicide as she was shamed for being a Dalit. So what is this caste system? It is a hierarchy with the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, Shudras, and even outside the caste system are the Dalits. Lack of access to education, just as we saw due to the caste system, or also because there being no or poor teaching in village schools, leads to unemployment or poor employment, low-paying jobs, being cheated of their just rights, their just payments, and land and property. For example, the Adivasis have been tilling forest lands for centuries, but have no land documents. Illiterate people are often cheated easily of their land documents. Creating hatred, inciting violence between people of different religions, faiths, beliefs, food habits, creates fear in people. They are unable to work freely to their complete potential. There is destruction of property and lives due to violence. The other reasons being price rise, especially of fuel, which raises the transport prices and all goods that are transported from the farms to the markets. Prices of edible oil, pulses, sugar that are on an all-time high, and many other commodities. Then we have the passing of all students without exams. So a standard 12 student from a needy family will not be able to succeed in competitive exams for professional courses due to lack of access to proper educational material such as the internet, reference books, special tutors. Then we have the 3 farm laws. The first one, the Farmers' Produce, Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Bill 2020. The Farmer Empowerment and Protection, Agreement of Price Assurance and Farm Services Bill 2020. And the third one, the Essential Commodities Amendment Bill 2020. These farm laws are a step towards ending all government procurement of crops from the farmers, including rice and wheat. This will leave farmers entirely in the grip of private trade, including corporate firms. This will further lead to corporate takeover of farmlands. As of now, the farmer demands include convene a special parliament session to repeal the farm laws, make minimum support price and state procurement of crops a legal right, assurances that conventional procurement system will remain. With regard to the change in labor laws and environmental laws, these have been changed to give an advantage to the corporates. On 23rd September 2020, the central government imposed a more permanent change, replacing 25 national level labor laws with 3 new labor codes. These new codes make it easier for employers to fire workers or unilaterally change their employment conditions, enable firms to use fixed-term employees instead of workers with job security, prevent outsiders from becoming office bearers of trade unions, thereby obstructing unionization. They make it much more difficult to strike legally, penalize workers who join illegal strikes. The few legal protections that were available to Indian workers have been drastically reduced. We then move to the environmental laws. A new draft National Forest Policy and a draft Coastal Regulation Zone notification appeared in 2018. India's spend analysis suggests that 278 projects in and immediately around the most ecologically sensitive locations have been cleared. India's Environment Ministry has been issuing environment, forest and wildlife clearances through 2-hour video conferences of expert panels. Due to the lockdown, neither can affected people send evidence or representations, nor can expert panelists conduct field visits. A decision has been taken on auction of 40 new coal fields in some of India's most ecologically sensitive forests. As we have all experienced for ourselves and seen in the media, destroying the environment results in climate change that leads to disastrous and life-endangering calamities. With all of this, what is actually taking place is the restructuring of the Indian economy. The other causes are sale of profit-making public sector units and infrastructure to corporates, a decrease in budgetary allocations for health, education, and welfare of people, sellout of media to corporates so that we see and hear only what they want, land taken over for projects, linking of ration card to the Aadhaar card. This policy and its effect will be explained later on. The National Monetization Policy plans to lease to corporates 8,154 kilometers gas pipeline, 1,400 kilometers railway tracks, 400 railway stations, 90 passenger trains, 27,600 kilometers highways to be built and maintained privately, 28,608 power transmission electricity meters, poles, wires, the Bharat net, 286,000 kilometers fiber optic line, 13,500 mobile towers, 27 airports, and so much more of infrastructure. The immediate effect of this policy would most probably be price rise for use of all these infrastructural services being leased out to corporates. The tragic problem unfolding in India today is unemployment. The latest Center for Monitoring the Indian Economy (CMIE) data shows for graduates aged 20 to 24 years, unemployment in 2017 as 42%, 2018 as 55.1%, 2019 as 63.4%. Construction is a large employer and accounted for 54.3 million jobs in 2017-18. Construction activities had a steep decline after demonetization. There were 6 million job losses in the agricultural sector in April 2021. In 2017-18, India's employed population, worker population ratio was 34.7%. The youth population between the age group of 15 years to 29 years being 368 million. Of these, 116 million are employed, 25 million are looking for work, 100 million are neither employed nor in education or training, 127 million are in education or training. And once they finish both, they too will join the list of the unemployed. According to the periodic labor force survey released in 2017-18 by the National Statistical Commission, unemployment levels risen to historic levels. Absolute number of persons employed had fallen for the first time in the history of the government's statistical body's employment measurement. As employment shrank, so did consumption expenditure. If you don't have work, you spend less, even on food. Sayantan Bera reports of villagers surviving on rotis and salt, or rice boiled with turmeric and salt. One often thinks of the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, which helps people get employment in the villages. But according to RBI, this scheme does not support rural income much due to delayed wage payment, lower wages, insufficient budgetary allocations. As per official data, suicides by daily wage earners doubled between 2014 to 2018 and has risen further thereafter. We have thus far seen the causes of poverty. What then would be the effects of poverty? We see people migrating from the rural areas to urban areas due to lack of employment for the landless laborers there. Farmers have very small pieces of land, no markets for their farm produce and trades, poor infrastructure for roads and transport, crop failure due to insufficient rains, destruction of fields due to chemical fertilizers, pesticides, fluctuation in prices for food items, huge debts of farmers, and corporate takeover of land. UNICEF found 8.8 lakh children in India below the age of 5 died prematurely in 2018. Of these, 69% died of malnutrition. In the April 2020 lockdown in Bihar, rural ration customers were pushed to starvation as machines at ration shops did not recognize their Aadhaar registered fingerprints. Now, this is due to the earlier policy that was mentioned of linking ration cards with the Aadhaar cards. The Global Hunger Index (GHI) score incorporates 4 component indicators to measure hunger: undernourishment, child wasting, child stunting, child mortality. In the 2020 GHI, India ranks 94 out of 107 countries. With a score of 27.2, India has a level of hunger that is serious. Children have been further affected by the pandemic. With school closures came school dropouts, an inability to access online learning due to existing digital gaps, no electric connection, no connectivity, no data, no mobiles, no network, and clash of class timings of siblings, early marriage, hunger, malnutrition, child labor, child abuse, child trafficking for labor and sex work, mental trauma, helplessness, anxiety, and fear. Many children have been pushed out of the school system. Says Madam S. Kapoor of an NGO, mothers who used to work as domestic workers are out of jobs, and children are being pushed into 2 hours of sex work so that they can come back with a 5-kilo bag of rice or wheat flour. One mother said to feed her 4 children, she had to sacrifice 1. The food grain stocks with the FCI, the Food Corporation of India, were 77 million tons in March 2020, much higher than the buffer stocks actually required. Yet, food grains were hoarded instead of distribution to the hungry. What we have just seen and heard so far has been a lot of statistics and data, and yet all of this was necessary to have an understanding of our country. With this understanding of our country, what would God want you to be and do for people who are deprived? The problem appears too big. Let us make a start with those within our reach. With this understanding of our country, let us try and see what is the best we can do. Acknowledge the presence, treat with respect, accord dignity to all persons, especially the Dalits who clean our sewers. Look for and create possibilities, opportunities for uniting people of all religions, castes, classes to work for the betterment of all, especially the needy. Create a we feeling rather than a we against them. Identify and stop all rumors that create fear and hatred about people of other religions. Insofar as we fight with each other, we are not turning our gaze and focus on the more important issues concerning our country that is impoverishing all of us. Be understanding of those working with us. Pay just wages. We could create a database of talents, small business, self-employed professionals in every area so that you can call on them whenever you need their services and they get business. Provide training to increase employability. Electrician, plumbing, so that a person can do more than one job. So should he lose one, he is always available for something else. Create work, employment, and livelihood possibilities. Create markets and buy from people who are needy. One thing that I'm sure we can all do is have all parishes to decide to host farmers' markets once a week and buy directly from farmers. We could also insist and assist in educating children of your domestic worker, roadside vendors, street children. Inform them to call 1098, that is Childline, in case of abuse. Let your domestic worker's child study in your house. This ensures the child's safety and access to education, and the parents are at peace. Share your time and talents with children from the municipal school and street children. An interesting point to be considered here is, every year, workers from the villages who migrate to the city for work go back to their villages when it is time to sow or harvest crops in the fields. When the lockdown was imposed suddenly, these workers fled to their villages, as they were sure that they would get food for their survival. We hear and see of educated persons, professionals buying land in rural areas and taking to farming using various techniques to grow organic crops, vegetables, fruits, and getting huge profits. We need to connect and collaborate with such persons to train and empower our farmers and agricultural laborers to use their land suitably and set up processing units to optimally use their produce for better gains, so that we could have locally placed small-scale industry in our rural areas. Besides this point, there are several areas which come under the purview of the international policy of the country and global finance, which is beyond the reach of people's decision-making and hence not mentioned in this presentation. I invite you all to collaborate with us, the Daughters of the Cross, as we reach out with assistance from persons of all faiths, locally and in other states, to the deprived, marginalized, oppressed, and abused. Our country needs democratic national development. Yes, it is possible. Together, let us unite, build people, and a healthy, happy, just, equitable India. The information and data for this presentation has been taken from a very reliable source, Crisis and Predation, a book by the Research Unit for Political Economy. Thank you.